What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. I'm your host once more, Simon Villanos, aka Coach V. It is June 17th, 2025. When I am recording this, I'm bringing you yet another player spotlights. One of my last ones, at least for boys football here. I think I have this one and then maybe one and a half more after this, so we'll see. But on this episode, we're going to do our player spotlight where we talk about all these players individually, stats, film breakdown, talk about the offers, what their future's looking like a little bit, and then talk about some big games if you were to check them out. Where would you watch them, or who would you watch them play against? And, you know, some big games for these athletes, you know, who are the big teams that they need to perform well against in order to gain more opportunities to play on the next level. So there you go, a lot to talk about on this episode where we're going to be talking about some defensive players on the 5A level. We have an edge rusher, linebacker, and corner. Actually, I think we have two edge rushers, a linebacker and corner, so we're going to get versatile with it. So let's go ahead and hop into this episode. And let's do that by starting with the incoming junior edge rusher from Thunder Ridge, 6'4", listed at 205. It is Camden Neumann for them. So last year, as a sophomore, was pretty much his first year starting and whatnot, or at least being a significant contributor according to these stats. He had 24 tackles and 3.5 sacks against Cherokee Trail and Arapahoe. Each had 4 tackles. Against Ralston Valley, though, 6 tackles and 3 sacks here. Already, like I said, standing at 6'4", 205 as only an incoming junior. So let's talk about what I really like about this young defensive player. So right now, he has an overall grade of a 75.9 going into his junior year. And there's some things that I really like about his game that separates from other people in the state. Starting with his 3 highest grades, all of these are out of 10. I gave him an 8 out of 10 for versatility. Plays edge rusher. I think he could also bump it inside a little bit as well sometimes. And then I believe he was listed at tight end. I could be wrong though, but I'm pretty sure he was. Also, I like his first step. Gave him an 8.1 at his height and weight. You know, I think it's pretty solid, on the same level of a low 3-star edge rusher. So there you go. And then agility, hip fluidity. I mean, he's a good athlete out there. 8.3 out of 10. For somebody who's only 205 pounds, you would hope that they could move faster than opposing linemen, and that's what he does, so I'll take that there. Now, let's talk about his 3 lowest grades here. I gave him a 3 out of 5, I believe, for power pass rushing and block shedding. I mean, comparatively to some of the linemen he's going up against, he's just not very strong and probably could get better leverage too when using those power moves. I also gave him a 3.5 out of 5 on form tackling. I think that, you know, there are times it's just not the cleanest tackle, either tackling way too high or a little bit too low there. And so, I mean, at him being at 6'4" as an incoming junior, was a sophomore, you know, you could kind of tell that he's not quite comfortable tackling at 6'4", but he will be. So there is that, but those are his lowest grades here. Now, let me go ahead and talk about all the grades, starting with the categories out of 10. Frame, gave him a 7.8. 6'4", I love. 205 is super light. By the end of his senior year, hopefully he's in the 220, 230 range, and he has plenty of time, so I definitely expect that frame grade to go up. Versatility, gave him an 8. Gap edge run discipline, 7.8. Hip power, 7.5 here. Agility, hip fluidity, mobility, 8.3. And then first step, 8.1. The rest of these grades are out of 5 here. Finesse pass rushing, solid at a 3.9. Power pass rushing and block shedding are both at a 3. Finesse block shedding is at a 3.5, as well as form tackling. Straight line speed, 3.8. Pass coverage, 3.8. Did not really see a whole bunch of that, but I feel like at 6'4", 205, you know, he could definitely make some noise in the pass coverage game. So there you go. And then play recognition, just 0.1 off of a 4, so a 3.9 for an overall grade of a 75.9 for Camden Neumann. Look, he is a long edge rusher who has good athleticism and the ability to shut down things sideline to sideline. He also has a nice first step. And that's something that does matter because there are some players who just don't have a good first step. So to naturally have a good first step, that's something to work with. With the wingspan he has, he can definitely develop into a next level linebacker or edge rusher, but he needs to get stronger and put on weight no matter where he plays. But he does have plenty of time. I think this offseason will be very telling here to see how far he comes. As of right now, June 17th, he does not have any offers, but we're in the middle of camp season and he's only going to be an incoming junior, so there's going to be plenty of opportunities for him to prove himself. But he's a young defensive lineman. I like the frame at 6'4". I think there's some good athleticism. If he could stack on some weight, then now we're talking he could be really dangerous. But I think with the production he had, having 3 sacks against Ralston Valley isn't nothing. That's definitely something to look at and be like, okay, there could be a little bit of something there. You also got to throw in that, Thunder Ridge, they'll have a new head coach in Jay Madden, one of the legends in the state when it comes to coaching football here. And I'm sure he will get a lot out of Camden Neumann here. So there you go. Now, some potential big games for this season. Thunder Ridge has a tough schedule. To start out in August, the 29th, they play Columbine. Then a couple of weeks later, they play Arapahoe. Then Ralston Valley, Mountain Vista, and Valor Christian. Their league is pretty rough, but there's some good linemen in this league. There's going to be opportunities for him to earn his offers against some of the best offensive linemen in the state, and also some of the offenses that pass the most in this state as well. So there's going to be opportunities to really rack up those sacks if given the opportunity to pass rush. So we'll see what happens. I think he's still in the stage where, he could be an edge rusher. He could be a linebacker. They can move him around and really get versatile with him. And so we'll see where he is set at. Last year, he played at edge rusher, so that's why I'm grading him there right now. But I think there's definitely potential between his frame and athleticism. It's going to be really interesting to see where he steps moving forward. But I'm just going to assume that he's going to take a step forward, a natural step forward, honestly. So there you go. But that's Camden Neumann, rooting for him this upcoming season as well as Thunder Ridge and wishing him all the best of luck. Now, the next player we are going to talk about is a cornerback. He will be an incoming senior, so class of 26, and it is Jaiden Nichols, the 5'10", 155-pound cornerback from Arvada West here. I had the honor, I guess we had the honor of covering his brother, and then Jaiden is somebody that we've been able to kind of see through from his middle school years to his JV years, and then now starting on varsity. Last year, I believe, was his first real year starting on varsity, or getting at least a lot of time on varsity, the most he's had so far. But in his junior year, 44 tackles, 1 interception, but 10 pass deflections here. Some big games he had last season against Fairview, had 9 tackles, which was a season high, and a pass deflection. Against Denver East, 2 tackles and then a season high in pass deflections with 3. And then against Fort Collins, he had his 5 tackles and the 1 interception he had on the year. Altogether, though, a pretty productive junior year considering he was playing corner, mostly opposite of Atticus Tillman over there. So that's big time. Now, the film breakdown grade I gave him based off of his junior year film and going into his senior year is a 77.6, which is pretty solid here. Let's talk about the things that makes him great, his highest grades. So this first one is out of 10. I gave him an 8.35 for man-to-man. He's a sticky corner. He's a very good man coverage cornerback, and every team needs a good man corner. On this level, on the next level, and the one after that, you need someone who could play man well, who has the play recognition, discipline, all that stuff to be a good corner, because it's a tough position to play, probably the toughest in all sports. And so for him to be able to be this good at man-to-man, it's saying something. He's a very good cover corner, and he gives wide receivers fits. Speaking of fits, this grade is out of 5. Gave him a 4.3 out of 5 for pass breakup. I love how physical he could get, getting a hand up in there, disrupting a receiver, the pass, all that great stuff, and ultimately forcing an incompletion, which is big time. And he does that a lot by using his leverage as well, which is one of his highest grades. Gave him a 4.25 out of 5. Just altogether, he's a very smart and resourceful corner. He knows where he needs to be to make a play on the ball, to make it a tougher catch for receivers, a tougher throw for quarterbacks. And, that is something that, you don't really see out of every single corner on the high school level. But it's the little things like this, like leverage, man coverage ability, that makes a corner valuable. Being aggressive when attacking the ball, that makes a corner valuable and someone who can be a next level type of player. Now, his 3 lowest grades, though, gave him a 7 for versatility. I don't think he really plays on offense, not like that here. And I don't think he really does too much on special teams either. Would love to see him contribute a little bit more on both sides of the ball. I know his brother was able to do that. I hate to bring up the sibling card, but I am. Versatility always goes a long way in recruiting. On top of that, gave him a 3 out of 5 for ball skills. There are definitely some plays where, I felt like he could have got the interception rather than a pass breakup, and it's just inconsistent hands. Just inconsistent hands. And, as a corner, it's a little tough because you're going to be catching some throws that aren't going to be on the money because you are forcing the turnover, right? But it's what you got to do to stand out from other DBs. You got to make turnovers happen, and I think there were just too many opportunities that he could not turn into a turnover. And there were pass deflections, incompletions, which is good, but for somebody reading plays this good, he should have more turnovers. And that's just what it is. So there you go. And then I gave him a 6 out of 10 for frame. Right now, 5'10", 155, I could definitely believe the 5'10". He's probably either 5'10", 5'11". 155 is pretty light. I'm not going to say it puts him out of, being potentially a D1 corner, but there's definitely some work to do, especially considering he doesn't exactly have 4.3 speed either. Still pretty good speed, but not 4.3 speed for somebody this light. So that's definitely something I hope he works on, just putting on more weight. I think that's going to give him more playing opportunities and also allow him to get more involved in the run game. Now let's talk about the full grades here. All the ones, or let's start with the categories out of 10 first. So frame, like I said, 6, versatility 7, agility, hip fluidity 8.3. I like his footwork for the most part. I'll talk about some things that he could still work on with his footwork though, but I think he has good agility and relatively smooth hips there. Speed is solid. I gave him an 8.3. I think his 40 time is at a 4.58, which doesn't feel correct, but he probably runs in the 4.5s, maybe not quite the 4.4s yet though. Tackling, solid enough, gave him a 4. Anticipation, breaking on balls, routes, batting down, passes. I gave him a 4.2 out of 5 here. Like I said, he does a good job getting his hands up in there and disrupting the pass and forcing incompletions, which is what matters. Play recognition, 4.3. Jump ball contest, 4. For somebody at his size, he does a good job at contesting jump ball throws and using the sideline to his advantage, so I like that. He definitely plays up a bit. Ball skills, like I said, 3. Leverage, 4.25. Run game defense, 3.5. He could be a little bit more involved. And then pass breakup, 4.3. For an overall grade of a 77.6 here for Jaiden Nichols. Look, he's a very good man cornerback who has good agility and footwork, but what really stands out to me is his play recognition. He reads receivers well and knows when to break on the ball or how he should play his zone depending on the passing concept. I think athletically he has the speed and agility to play on the next level, like bare minimum at least, and his play recognition really helps him, and I think that'll translate to the next level as well. Now, his back pedal and turns could be a little clunky at times, but I think that could definitely be smoothed out. I would also like to see him get stronger and put on some weight. While he is holding up well on this level, I think if he got bigger, then he can make more of an impact in the run game. I also hope he works on his hands a little bit more. On offense, he shows he can make some pretty basic catches, but on defense, he has definitely dropped some open picks and struggled a little bit making contested catches. He did. There was only 1 interception on the year, so there is that. If he can force more turnovers, though, going into this next season, as in 2025, if he can, I really believe that he can be an underrated prospect, somebody that colleges will want. So there you go there. As of right now, he does not have any offers as of June 17th. Like I said, it's camp season. It is a little early. I think he's probably a D2 corner right now just because of his height, frame, and all that great stuff. But he does have the skill set to play on the next level. I think on this level, he's a very underrated corner. But honestly, he is one of the best in the entire state. Just looking at all the little things he does well: leverage, attacking the ball, play IQ, right, and recognition. The only thing that's a little bit of a red flag are the turnovers, catching the ball and whatnot. But everyone wants turnovers. That's just how it is. There's still time to work on that. So there you go. And there's going to be some big games this season for him to really prove himself. Starting on September 5th, they play Fairview. That's going to be a tough squad. They are a team that, can't run the ball at a wing tee a lot, so that'll be a good opportunity for him to get involved in the run game. But, they have a quarterback in Key Ellison over there. They could air it out, plus Torrey Davis there as well. There could be some opportunities to go compete over there against Fairview, so that's always going to be a good one. Him and Atticus Tillman, that'll be a nice little matchup, actually, so looking forward to that. Then the following week, they play Legend. Legend, they're not the Legend of old. They have a quarterback, and I believe they have a coaching staff that can throw the ball. So there you go, as well as DJ Bordeaux, Ryken Banks, Kellen Marchand. They're going to have their hands full. So that's going to be a fun one to see how him and, this Arvada West team could hold up there. Then after that, they play Columbine. Got to play the run. Opportunity to show how physical you could be. Then on the 17th, they play Denver East of October, that is. They play Denver East with Declan McDonald and their new head coach, and Coach Thomas, who, coached over at TFG. He knows Jaiden Nichols. That could be interesting. Following that, they play Chatfield. Speaking of TFG, a lot of, teammates on his squad, on that TFG squad, plays for Chatfield. They're going to have an explosive offense. And then last but definitely not least, you got Ralston Valley at the end of the regular season to end league play as well. And if there's any chance for them to win their league, they got to beat Ralston Valley at the very least. I mean, there's a lot of teams that got to beat here, but they got to beat Ralston Valley, who's going to be throwing the ball. They're going to be challenging them deep. So a lot of opportunities to make plays. But with that being said, Jaiden Nichols should be excited. I know right now it's kind of tough. No offers right now, but he does have the ability to play on this level. I mean, this defense is better with him being one of their best man, corners, DBs. You have Atticus Tillman, who also plays corner DB. He could also play safety too. So, they need these two DBs to step up and really help out this defense that is losing a pretty significant defensive edge up front. So there you go there. But either way, rooting for Jaiden Nichols going into this last season for him, at least on the high school level, and rooting for Arvada West going into this 2025 campaign as well. Wishing them all the best of luck this upcoming season. All right, now this next player we are going to talk about is a linebacker, also a senior like Jaiden Nichols, and it is Dakota Rich, the 6'2", 200, I believe, and 20-pound linebacker from Valor Christian High School here. Last season was his first big season, contributing as a full-time starter. I think he got some snaps his sophomore year, but nothing significant. Last year, he broke out in his junior year where he had 62 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, and 1 sack in 13 games. I mean, he was a tackle machine for them out there and was very reliable. He had some pretty good games against Pine Creek, 7 tackles, Regis Jesuit, 8 tackles, Castleview, 10 tackles. So there you go. Now let's talk about what makes him great. And talk about this film breakdown too, because I gave him a grade of a 72. You will see why, though. Let's talk about his highest grades first, starting with the ones out of 5. I gave him a 4.35 out of 5 for form tackling and gap responsibility. I mean, look, Dakota Rich is your classic stop the run linebacker, plug the holes, make the play, and he does it at a very efficient level. He's a good tackler, and he plays the run very well. I think it's on the level of a borderline 4-star, if I'm being quite honest with you, and I like that a lot. Frame, I gave him him an 8.5. He's standing at 6'2", 220. I think there are some sites where he's listed at 6'2", 210, 215, right? But, I mean, at 6'2", that's pretty prototypical of your average linebacker on the college level. To be in this range of just 210 plus, I think is a good spot to be in. A little bit on the lighter side, though. I think 8.5 is a little bit generous, but I'm just going to lean on the fact that he's probably going to be playing at 6'2", 220 going into his senior year. I would think so, at least, so we'll see about that. Now, his 3 lowest grades, these categories are out of 5. Gave him a 3 for man coverage ability, catching, and finesse pass rushing. I mean, look, there's just not a lot of opportunities for him to do too much in the passing game. I mean, he plays zone, right? But he doesn't really go man-to-man with anybody too much. And when he does, it's not like he's making, like, forcing turnovers or anything crazy like that. So I gave him the default grade of a 3 out of 5 there. Same with finesse pass rushing. He doesn't, I mean, like, he'll blitz, I guess, every now and then, but I don't think there's anything crazy there. No crazy hand fighting. So there you go. Now let's look at all of his grades, starting with the categories out of 10. Like I said, frame 8.5. Versatility is a 7, though. Does not play on offense, which is tough. I'm sure he's out there on special teams. You know, I mean, a tackler like that you'd like to have on special teams, so there you go. But would be nice if he played on offense here to see some of his catching ability. And then on top of that, I mean, he's kind of just used as your standard run-stopping linebacker. Not too much contributions in the passing game, not rushed off the edge a whole lot. So there are some limiting opportunities there. Agility, hip fluidity, though, gave him an 8, and then play recognition gave him an 8.1. I think it's solid. It shows in how he stops the run. So there you go. Now, talking about the categories out of 5, we have man coverage ability, which is a 3. Zone coverage is a 4. Definitely see him play in that zone quite a bit, but he's very conservative in that. I mean, he's not going to make too many big mistakes. I don't think he'll make any big mistakes, but would like to see him, you know, take a couple more risks, right? Force more turnovers. Turnovers are never bad. Hit power, 3.5. Straight line speed is solid, a 4. 4.35 for form tackling. 3.7 for finesse block shedding. Would like to see him use his hands more. Power block shedding, he gets good leverage, though, so a 4. Power pass rushing here, 3.5. And then finesse pass rushing, a 3. Gap responsibility, 4.35. And then catching is a 3. For an overall grade of a 72 flat for Dakota Rich. Look, Dakota has a D1 frame and solid athleticism, but I believe his best football is ahead of him. I think he's a very safe player who will be conservative in the run and pass game, but will make the reliable play. What I want to see him do to take that next step is really hammer out that play recognition and gain the confidence to bait QBs and be much more aggressive in forcing turnovers. I'd like to see him fly in for TFLs, tackles for losses, and turnovers, but he just isn't quite there yet. At least looking at his junior film, he's not quite there yet. The athleticism is there, and in fact, he has put on some weight, which is good. I think he can have a breakout senior season, which could mean many more offers, but I'd like to see him really get out there and be a chaotic force for Valor, who, by the way, will be having a new head coach in Mike Sanford, who's more of an offensive guy. So for Dakota Rich coming back, that'll be huge for him. Now, as of right now, June 17th, he has one D1 offer to Coastal Carolina. They are in the middle of camp season, so more offers could be rolling here. But, you know, that's a solid school. That's a solid school offering him a scholarship here. So we'll see what happens, whether he takes it or waits. But I do think he can have a big senior season where he could earn more of an opportunity or just more opportunities elsewhere if he does not want to go to Coastal Carolina. And so let's talk about that. Let's talk about the potential big games this upcoming season where if you want to watch Dakota Rich, this would be a good time to see him get challenged and see if he's the real deal. Starting with their game against Pine Creek, they do have a new head coach. They do bring back their running back, right? But this is a team that's always going to be physical. They're going to run the ball. Perfect opportunity for Dakota Rich to put his stamp on this game. Following that, they play Regis in the Holy War. Rivalry game. You know, you got to have a big game in a rivalry game. Then they go ahead and play Faith Lutheran, a good out-of-state team. That'll be huge. And following that, pretty much 20 days later, they play Ralston Valley. That's going to be a challenging game against a team that passes the ball. There's not many teams in 5A that passes the ball like Ralston does. So that's going to be an exciting game. We'll see how useful Dakota Rich could be against the pass when they play a team like that. And then, last but not least, they have their league, but they cannot win their league without beating Mountain Vista. After the embarrassment that was last year against Mountain Vista, Valor Christian's looking to get some of that get back, but they can't do that without playing good defense. And, this is a defense that really struggled against, granted, an elite Mountain Vista team with Austin Madreski and all the receivers and Jack Blaze, all the great players they have over there. That's a very good team. But with that being said, a loss is a loss. If you want to reclaim your conference title, your league title, you got to beat Mountain Vista and avenge last year at the very least. So we'll see. Dakota Rich, altogether though, I think he has all the tools to be great. Last year he was super productive. This year I think he could be even more productive for a Valor Christian team who, honestly, they could make a run at state. We'll see how Sanford handles everything and if you could get this team going, but they have plenty of talent over there, including Dakota Rich. It's not crazy to say that they could be a contender or should be pretty much every year in 5A. So we'll see what happens, but Valor Christian, they have a good reputation of getting players of all different positions to the next level, and Dakota Rich will be one of many linebackers who have succeeded and went on to play potentially on the D1 level, but we'll see how he progresses going into his senior season. Either way, wishing him the best of luck, wishing Valor the best of luck going into this 2025 campaign. Alright, now the last player we are going to talk about on this episode, which by the way, feels like it is flying. It is the edge rusher out of Mullen, only going to be an incoming junior in Troy. Mailo, I believe that is how you say it. If it's not how you say it, I apologize. Please go ahead and message in to tell us and correct us how to say it. But Troy Mailo here, 6'3", 238 as an incoming junior. He has been a beast. This is somebody who really came onto the scene last year in his sophomore year where he played 11 games. I think his freshman year, he also got his snaps as well. But nothing like his sophomore year where, like I said, played 11 games, had 52 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, and 30 hurries against a bunch of opponents who are pretty tough. This might have been the toughest schedule Mullen has had in over a decade, it feels. But let's talk about some of the key games. Against Castleview, had 7 tackles, tackle for loss, and a hurry. Ralston Valley, 6 tackles, a tackle for loss, 3 hurries. Against Valor, 8 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a sack, and 4 hurries against that team. That's a good offensive line there, by the way. Against Erie, had 4 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, 4 hurries. And then against Rangeview, not the best team, but his most productive game. 7 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, and 2 hurries in that game. So a pretty productive sophomore year despite Mullen moving up, and I mean not moving up like a classification, but moving up and playing better opponents in the regular season. Now his film breakdown grade that I gave him going into his junior year is an 82.3, which is really good for an edge rusher. I think out of all the edge rushers that I evaluated, I think out of all the edge rushers that I evaluated for player spotlights, he has the highest one out of any edge rusher in the class of 2027. When it comes to comparing him to seniors, he is only 0.5 away from some of our senior edge rushers that we really like as well. But let's go ahead and talk about what makes him great here, starting with his 3 highest grades. This first category, or I guess these first couple grades we'll talk about, are out of 10. I gave him an 8.5 out of 10 on agility, hip fluidity, frame, and versatility here. Look, 6'3", 238. I don't think he played at 238. He was probably closer to 230 last year, maybe in the 220 range. But for somebody at that size, he moves very well, and he does get moved around quite a bit on defense, and then I think on offense he also plays tight end, so there's some good versatility there. I mean, when you have somebody this big moving the way he does, you got to use him wherever you can. That's just basic football knowledge there. And so he's just one of those freaks of nature. On top of that, these grades are out of 5, but it gave him a 4.25 on finesse run block shedding and play recognition. Does a good job against the run, gets in the backfield and gets some good tackles for loss on a pretty consistent basis, has pretty quick hands, which I like to see as well. And from what I've seen so far, the play recognition looks solid. Now, I will say this, I need to see him live, and I think I will this upcoming season to get a good grade on that, at least a grade that I'm more confident on. But right now, I'm pretty confident with a 4.25 grade out of 5 right there. Now, his 3 lowest grades gave him the default grade of a 3 out of 5 for pass coverage. He's not in pass coverage, right? He has his hand in the ground. It's not really something he does, but that's just the grade I give edge rushers who may not be in pass coverage. So that's a versatility thing. But gave him a 4 out of 5 on power run block shedding, which is not bad. That's still the equivalent of a 3-star level right there. I think he has good power, but he could use it a little bit more consistently. I think there's times where the leverage, he gets it at times, and then there are other times it's not quite there. And so would love to see a little bit more consistency here as he's going into his frame and whatnot and gets more comfortable at this playing weight. We could definitely see that grade go up. In fact, I expect it to go up. On top of that, gave him a 4.1 out of 5 for power pass rushing. Pretty much the same thing. Would love to see him be a little bit more violent with his hands, get a good push, and get stronger there. And honestly, if you could blend those speed and power rushing moves, that would be great. But from some of the clips that I've seen this offseason, Troy over there has been putting in some work. It looks pretty good. So there you go. But, I'm just going off the film that I saw from his sophomore year alone. So let's just start there. Now, going over all of the grades here. Frame, 8.5 out of 10, by the way. So these grades will be out of 10. These first ones I'm about to talk about. Frame, 8.5. Versatility, 8.5. Gap, edge, run, discipline, 8.3. Hit power, 8. Agility, hip fluidity, 8.5. And first step is a solid 4 here. Now, these other grades are out of 5. Finesse pass rushing, 4.3. Power pass rushing, 4.1. Finesse run block shedding, 4.25. And power run block shedding, a 4. Form tackling, I think, is pretty solid, 4.2. Straight line speed is also a 4.2. Pass coverage to the default grade of a 3. And then play recognition, a 4.25. For an overall grade of an 82.5, grading out of 3-star right now, but definitely some upside with some 4-star potential as he's only going into his junior year. Now, look, he has taken the step forward his sophomore year that I thought he was capable of. At the time, at 6'3", 230, he was poised to be the best rusher in the state, and I think he still is. He possesses a rare blend of speed and power. I think he can continue to get stronger, and that could completely change his game and get him to the next level. But right now, he has good speed and agility. On top of that, he is a very polished pass rusher for his age, flashing some counter moves already. I do think he relies a little bit too much on his speed, but as he gets stronger, he will become a more balanced pass rusher. Against the run, he block shots well, and he does a good job holding down contained. So there you go there. And other schools have noticed. Now, of course, it's Mullen. They got some resources. But Troy Mailo, he's an absolute beast at 6'3", 230. Now about to be playing probably closer to 240 this season. And these schools really like that. As of today, the 17th, I believe yesterday, went to Michigan's camp and got offered by them on the spot. So there you go. Some other big offers. Arizona State, who, by the way, was just in the college football playoffs last year. You have Oklahoma, an SEC school, Arizona, Big 12, Utah as well, Big 12, and Kansas State. So already a number of D1 schools. He has plenty of time, and I think it's pretty fair to say that he's going to continue to garner interest and rack up these offers. I don't think there's any rush for him to go ahead and commit somewhere, especially considering how many offers he's getting this early on in his recruitment. So that's definitely big time there. But with that being said, focusing on this upcoming season for Mullen, their junior year, It's one thing to be a great prospect. It's another thing to be a great prospect on a winning team. And so I'm sure he wants to win with Mullen and get them better to where they're at compared to last season. Get them in a better spot compared to last season. Part of that is health, but, all around, everyone could have played better. And so some potential big games for Mullen this season. To start, they play Korean Lutheran, an out-of-state team. Following that, a couple weeks later, they play Ralston Valley. They're going to pass the ball. They play Regis Jesuit, a team with a couple youngsters of their own over there who are getting D1 offers, so that'll be interesting. And then this one will probably be for the league, but in October on the 17th, they play Erie here, who has Braylon Tolliver and all of them, so that'll be a very interesting game. So altogether, Mullen, with the schedule they have, they're pretty much a lock to make the playoffs every year. But I know they want to be more than a one-and-done team in the playoffs. And I think guys like Troy Mailo over here, he's going to go ahead and find a way to change that up and get them to some winning ways once more. It's been a while, right, since they've had some meaningful winning ways. But I think they could really get there his junior year. And it's going to start with him. It's going to start with him setting the tone on defense, being an absolute menace over there, and opening it up for everyone else on that defense. And there's some good defenders on that defense, mind you. So we'll see what happens, but rooting for Troy here, wishing him all the best of luck going into this 2025 season and campaign. All right, thank you so much for rocking with us. I got one more player spotlight episode after this here, which will release on Monday, and then I think I'm doing a half episode with somebody. So make sure you check all of that out. We're covering a whole bunch of players. Make sure you check out our other episodes that myself, Cody, and Gino have already released. And to be updated on that, follow us, show some love on social media at Playmakers Corner. We appreciate all the love there. But until next time, I'll catch you later.